I'm Anna.
I'm Ben.
We're AutoSave. Welcome to our channel.
Today we're watching Steins Gate 0, Season 1, Episode 12. We're at an interesting place. I didn't expect Maho to go home. I know we were told that that was going to happen, but I was, I guess, suspended in a realm of disbelief because I didn't want it to happen. Going forward, I imagine we are either going to get some sort of time skip so that Okabe can go to the US and or stay here and maybe focus on the Kaguri likes a certain commercial story beat. I don't know.
We also talked about the possibility that we'd be seeing the entire journey into World War III. Like how these characters come to be adopting Kaguri or Daru being skinny.
Do you think that we're ever going to get like the point of, okay, if we do change things now, we are going to be getting rid of Kaguri's existence in that world line?
It's a possibility.
Ready?
Poor Mayuri.
Yeah, I know. Sweet. All right, Kaguri.
Okay.
Flashback for Kaguri.
Treatment.
素敵なお知らせがあるのです。お知らせ？手続きとかが全部終わったの。今日から私がかがりちゃんの本当のママ、一緒に暮らせるんだよ。ママ。まあ、かがりちゃんは。
I feel like my heartstrings are going to be torn in half.
I know. I love that we don't really get to see her face.
You should just do it outside of like the train track radius. Mother Goose of Mutual Recursion. Okay, all right. I'm sorry. I felt like it was too obvious to say the train track thing, but it was just like, how could you not?
How could you not? I mean, we saw Mayuri die how many times? So... Of course it was.
He's grinding.
Mention of the study abroad.
Hell yeah. Date ideas. Aww.
Is she gonna recognize it?
God, I love when songs break through amnesia.
I haven't been avoiding you or anything.
Steins Gate を目指すつもりはない。言われなくても分かった。すまない。ずっと戻らないのかな。かがりの記憶最孤児でさ、ずっと辛い思いをしてきたんだよね。だけど、まゆ姉さんとの出会いが、まゆ姉さんに会って、あいつは初めて笑顔を取り戻したんだ。去った時、あいつ銃を向けたんだよね。だからママに会えなくなるってさ。まだ10歳の子供が戻るのと戻らないのとあの子にとってどっちが幸せなの？
Damn.
少なくとも彼女を襲った連中について詳しくわかる。
私は今私にできることをやるだけだけどね。かがりのことよろしく。ママ。
You're gonna make me cry. Stop.
Reaching to the sky, too.
私もしかして。
大丈夫か。
はい。
まゆりならさっきまでいたんだが、どうしても足りないらしくてな。
めちゃくちゃ心配してたお。
そうですか。
少しは落ち着いたか。
歌を聞いたんです。そしたら急に頭が。
歌。君はその歌に聞き覚えが？
はい。
最近聞いたんじゃな
と思います。
どうもオカリン。
記憶を取り戻す手がかりになるかもしれないな。確かめに行ってもいいんだが。
私ならもう平気です。
Interesting.
ね、別にいつもと変わらず。っていうか、もう半月前の検査なんてないって言うのに、なんで私ばっかり。
何もないならよかったじゃない。
何もなくないよ。余計なお肉が未だに取れなくて。ぶりにカラオケでもどう？
ごめんなさいと用があって。
With
Are we
Dario?
meeting with Dario? Is that why he was looking for ideas? I feel like she'd be the one to ask him on a date, though. She's a klutz! She's a klutz. That's what she is. All those injuries.
It was nothing but being a
It
klutz.
was nothing but being a klutz. This is confirmation.
Or maybe being a klutz is the act!
まゆしこそ一緒にいてあげられなくてごめんね。まゆりさんが歌っていた歌、どこかで聞いたことがあって。
だから教えてくれないか。
Grandma.
もしかしたら
That's my
か
guess.
がりの記憶を取り戻す。
まゆしはあの歌、
Oh!
鈴葉が。
が時々外を見ながら歌ってるの。
So maybe Amane, and that's why we got her?
なんていう歌なのかは知らなくて。
未来で流行った歌なのか。
ごめんね、やってくれてありがとう。
Suzuha's mom.
まゆしも言っていいかな。いいんですか？うまく言えないんだけど、まゆしは助けてあげたいって気持ちになるの。ね、まゆりさん。
バイトは？
ピークは終わったから大丈夫にゃん。
鈴葉に連絡を取ってみる。
バイト中かな。休みのはずですが。
Suzuha did kind of give like a weird goodbye to Ocarine, right?
Or she's spying on her parents' date.
今から戦いに行く。
Yeah,
It's the parents'
definitely
date.
the parents'
She's
date.
gonna try to help Dario. She's a wing woman.
まさか。
Oh,
Wait.
eating contest. Go curry. See, this is even better.
Is there like a prize that she really wants to win? Okay, what's the prize?
The Silent Slaughterer. 3-time winner.
戦場で生き残るために必要な要素だからね。歌なんて歌ってたんだ。とっても可愛かったの。やめてよ、まゆ姉さん。
それで鈴葉はどこで覚えたんだ？
じゃなくて、ゆきさんが歌ってたんだよ。
ゆきさんが。ゆきさんからってことは未来でのことだよな。
料理しながら歌ってたんだ。
じゃあかがり派から教わった可能性も。
それはないよ。養子になったのは母さんが死んだ。
Only after mom died.
私のかがりの前で歌ったこと。
まゆりは鈴葉、鈴葉はゆきさんから。まるで伝言ゲームだな。
It is.
ゆきさんバイト中かも。
仕方ない。連絡が来るのを待つか。
岡部さん。
Oh my god.
口の端にソースついてる。
They're both blushing. I'm blushing.
汚くなんてありませんよ。の二人お付き合いしてたんですね。
あいつ、用事があるとか。
おかり。
さすがに邪魔するのも悪い。
Good move.
でも。
No, not on a date.
それでその歌なん。
お菓子教室のお手伝いをしてるんです。作るお菓子すっごく美味しいんだよ。今度一緒に作る？はい、ぜひ。
歌に何の関係が？
通ってる生徒さんがいつも歌ってる。
Oh no.
あの歌を何か覚えちゃって。
その人は俺たちの知ってる人だったり。
周りくらい年上の方ですけど。
その可能性も低いか。
それでお話しようと思って今変わりますね。
Mr. Braun?
あ
No?
あの
What?
すいませんあまねさんの友人の岡部、実はその歌について聞きたいことがありまして。
もしかして凛太郎？
Judy Reyes?
私、
その声、まさか。
自分の母親の声忘れたって。
Wait, what?
What?
オカリンさんのお母さんだったの。
What?
What?
みんな下の名前で呼んでる。オカリンのお母さんなんて。
What?
それが。
はいよ。
え？
だからあんたが歌ってた。
You're the one who sang it.
何言ってんだよ。
In his sleep! He must have sang it in his sleep when he was a kid!
ゆりちゃんが塞ぎ込んじゃった。
What the fuck?
あの頃からあんたおかしくなったのよ。
When
Started
reading
acting
Steiner
weird.
first
It was-
really appeared.
マッチョサイコロジスト？
やめて。
とにかくあんたがお風呂に入るたび歌ってたおかげでこっちまで覚えちゃった。
It all stems back to you.
つまりどう？
そもそもそんな歌歌っていたことすら覚えていない。
聞いたことは？まゆしも覚えてないのです。
俺たちもかがりと一緒だな。
I want to meet his mom.
住んでいた時というのは。
ちょっといろいろあって。
もしよかったら行ってみる？
あそこにか。
もしかしたら何かオカリンが来てくれて喜ぶだろうな。もちろんかがりさんのことも
This is heartbreaking.
大切なお友達だって。まゆりさん。おお、オカリン。何か思い出した？
話すんだろ。
ちょっと待っててね。久しぶりおばあちゃん。新しいお友達のかがりさんだよ。
みたいなものなんだ。
儀式なんだって。の思い出をなくしちゃうなんて悲しいよね。
More like the future.
取り戻してくれるかな。
Oh,
Oh, wow.
it'd be nice if they came back.
そうだ。よかったらまゆし。かがりさん。ここは。
Is music like the trigger for her?
I mean, we have the Mozart connections, right?
Hmm.
かがり？
What the fuck?
かがり？
会いたい。会いたいよ。ママ。
The face. She saw the face. Similar setup to when we started the
Yeah.
episode.
Exactly the same.
もうパッとやっと気がついてくれた。ママ。かがりさん。ママ。
She remembers.
まゆしはママ。
記憶が戻ったのか。
やっと会えた。大丈夫。
Immediately. She immediately flipped the switch and accepted it and knew it.
Just that little nod from Okabe.
あの。素敵な歌だなって。その歌。
What?
ママの大好きなママの歌なの。
キーロ6205シーナかがり。
Alright, that was Steins Gate 0, Season 1, Episode 12. Was that Okabe? In the end credit?
No.
No? I mean,
Has the eye color.
the okay. So the only
How
reason
would he not remember that?
it's in the future though, right?
No, this was
Oh,
the
okay.
past. This was her waking up in this current timeline.
Okay, then I think that gives it more credence. I mean, we know Okabe sang the song, right? And like that's how his mother knew it.
But how old were they when How old was
Middle school, I think,
No,
is
no,
what.
no. When Suzuha and Kagri came here, what time did they
You're
come here?
right.
Like how old? We saw them come here.
Because I would have assumed they'd come here in a similar vein as they did in actual Steins
No, but
Gate.
didn't they come earlier? Because she was like 10 and now she's like 20
Exactly.
something. You're right.
But I thought that she still would have Suzuha would have come at the initial time that she did in Steins Gate, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then over the course of the time skip which we got before the first episode of Steins Gate 0, then I thought that like that would have been the time enough for Kaguri to age up all the way. But it
that
doesn't.
would have only been like a year.
Yeah, when do we first get Kaguri? In episode 1?
I don't think it's episode 1. I think it's a little bit later in it. But I think that you're really right for bringing up that idea that that was possibly him and that would have been where he initially heard the song.
Yeah.
And then maybe he went home and sang it and then his mom heard it and then it's like, where did it come from? I think that idea that we come out of this episode already before that after credit with the idea of like, well, we might never know where that song came from and it's an enigma. But I think that that idea might even be more beautiful of a not knowing where it came from if it was an actual complete cycle.
Yeah.
Like a circle, you know what I mean? That in a way is actually more beautiful as a possibility.
Like the idea that if that is, Okabe, then maybe the reason that he can't remember it is that there's some infinite loop that would be working that if he interacts with somebody who came back from the future, which would align with his reading Steiner, that it would somehow affect his core memory of it happening in the first place. Since if he was the reason that it would be brought about in the first or in the end.
That and what if it was only in this world line that he met Kaguri? He might not have that knowledge because he retains from where he has been before, not for where he goes into. He doesn't necessarily go into another world line knowing exactly what has transpired here.
Yeah.
So it might be something that happened only in this world line from his past that is unlike any of the other. His past was probably exactly the same across all of the world lines, I guess, except this one. And so he wouldn't necessarily know that because he comes into this world line having retained everything that was currently happening from all of the others. But that doesn't mean that he would necessarily know something that existed in the past of only that Okabe in that world line.
Yeah. So it does feel like, based off of Kaguri's introduction with Suzuha, we have the sign saying Windows 98 and then the Y2K problem, right? Mm-hmm. So that's all alluding to before the year 2000, which is significantly before anything we get for the original Steins Gate plot. Mm-hmm. So that's wild to think about.
In this world line, they came here earlier.
Yeah.
Why? Why that year specifically? Oh, because the IBN?
Potentially. Yeah. And we also know that Suzuha did toy around going to earlier dates prior in Steins Gate. But at the end credit scene, it does give me the impression of it being Okabe. And then it seems like somebody in response after this interaction happened, we got that
she was being spied on. She was being watched.
And what was runaway K6205?
So
Kaguri has been found.
We can go in a dark direction with that. We can go in someone out there knew she was from the future. But I want to raise you a maybe more plausible, less sci-fi option for that. She could have been in some type of hospital or institution for amnesia, or maybe she went and was saying she came from the future, and she might have been under evaluation, for her brain, and if she was stable. If she was running around saying, I'm from the future, and getting maybe extremely violent, with like the fact that she held a gun earlier on Suzuha,
Yeah.
it could be that she could have been in an institution or under evaluation at a hospital, and she still could have a number or like some type of patient number or ID. And she could have been thought of as a runaway. We see her running away from a building, which I think could have been a hospital. She's in pajamas that might resemble what you would wear if you were at like a psychiatric wing of a hospital, possibly. So that is my more like plausible non-sci-fi option
That makes sense.
for where she's been.
Yeah. I'm trying to see where I have this note from in episode 10.
What's the note? The
K331.
K331. Is that the number for... Is episode 10 an episode where we get someone coming in?
No.
Then why'd you write it down?
It was before Leskinen and the sergeant claim, so it would have to be at the very beginning of the episode. Let's see. Because obviously the number we got for Kaguru is K6205, and like the idea
That's
of it...
already a longer number, but still the K.
Yeah. Not Salieri's username. It doesn't seem like it had... Oh. It has to come before this, because after that I wrote down July 28th, 2010.
We're talking about Mozart. Logical. We get a date and time.
It would have to be before the date and the time, right? Oh yeah, here you go.
That's one of the pieces.
Yep.
And they all have numbers.
Yep, identifying it. Made Mozart's Piano Sonata number 11 in A major, first movement. And like earlier in the series, we had the idea of there being like that code that's written in this kind of stuff. And
right, so that would lend evidence to more nefarious.
Yeah, the idea
reasoning.
that it like would also be in a similar type of like code.
Yeah.
Like in my mind, like I think that yours is very realistic and plausible and probably the right one.
I don't know. I don't think it's probably the right one, but I thought that it was fair to.
Yeah.
We're watching a show that is so incredibly feats that are unknown to man in our real world, as far as we know. People could be trying to invent time machines right now. They probably are.
Yeah.
But I thought that because we have so much fantastical happening, that it there was merit to at least bring up maybe some, especially in this episode, we have like, oh no, Suzuha's going into battle. That battle is an eating contest.
Yeah.
A more plausible real world situation should be brought up then.
I just have like, okay, so if it is the crazier option and the runaway K6205 has something to do with like connecting Amadeus to, Kaguri and everything that's going on, how would somebody in the time where Okarine's a kid have knowledge of, Kaguri being from the future? Like, would they have some sort of like important role or job like the Rounders did in Steins Gate? Like,
honestly, couldn't you see this possibility that once someone maybe proclaims that they're from the future, that there might be some type of CERN organization that like does a closer look at you, maybe behind the scenes. They're like, oh, this crazy person's claiming they're from the future. We don't believe them, but then there's maybe like someone with a clipboard in the background being like, I'm gonna actually like test this out and look into it. It could be something like that.
Do you think that, like, okay, we got in episode 10, the K331 identifying one of Mozart's old works. Do you think that there's something within Kaguri that, regardless of the progression being made in the future, could be an identifying marker for people? Like, okay, so say, like, in the early stages of making these, like, human trials or whatever they're doing, they, like, put a chip in their experiment, and then over the course of the next 30 years, they continuously do that, but just upgrade the chip that they're implanting to somebody. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, oh, okay, we think this person's from the future. Let's see what chip they are. Like, oh, they have a chip. We put chips in. This is way advanced. This is proof that they're from the future.
Another thing in that same vein is that we start the episode off with Kaguri getting treatment in a hospital setting, a lab type setting. And it could be possible that there's something to do with her genetic makeup or something to do with her body that they would be able to surmise that something was different about her. Maybe even like diet. I don't know. Like something to do with in her body, whatever she was needing treatment for. Maybe it's some disease that does not exist yet in this world but came from during World War III, different types of bombs or chemicals being used, and now people of that time period are contracting different illnesses or ailments because of whatever was being used at that time.
It made me anxious when we started talking about the idea that something could happen to Kaguri, which would make an event on Mayuri more devastating, right?
Yeah, especially now that she gets that little nod of confirmation to accept this.
Yeah,
at the end.
and talking about like treatment that she got in the future, like if there was treatment that she got that would have to come back into the picture where she'd need more treatment, or if she hasn't gotten it for a while.
Think about like chronic illnesses. Like if this is something that Kaguri had, whether from cancer to other illnesses, things can come back. They can be dormant for a little bit, or you could have no symptoms really happening for a while, and then it could come raging again. I think that that's an interesting place to go in terms of like how we could heartbreak Mayuri enough that Okabe did something.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that that is fair for us to bring up. Like, what would be a catalyst for Okabe actually trying to reach Steins Gate? It would be that the Mayuri that he tried so hard to save, the one that's alive in this world, loses her will to live.
Yeah.
Think about his origin story of friendship scenes that we've seen with Mayuri. That was that I need to hold her hostage. She has no will to live. Something that, like, her being given this gift of life, if you will, within this world line, this survival gift. What if she doesn't want it anymore because of something that happens here? That would go completely against anything that Kurisu and Okabe agreed upon or talked about.
It could also be like, ooh, okay, so do you remember the moment that, one of my favorite moments in all of Steins Gate that really perpetuated the character of Okabe, you know? Like the embodiment of my mad scientist.
Oh, yeah, your Kiyoma?
Yeah, do you remember like one of the big moments that really set forth his path into that character that we saw? Or like a great example of how solidified that was? It was when on seemingly like death's door, Mayuri was at the gravesite and was reaching up and was almost given up, and then he proclaimed, "You're my hostage.
Yeah.
I'm taking you." And if something like that happened where Mayuri was devastated and Ocarine felt like he had to step up and become that again, like that could elicit the response, and
it would be nice if they came
back. Yeah, that could elicit that same response.
Foreshadowing that he does need to take up that kind of delusional character again.
Yeah.
And that mad scientist does need to come back. He does need to start tampering in things that he doesn't want to be tampering in. God, the not aiming to reach Steins Gate, even though that we know where we're gonna end up, is so sad. I want it so bad. Do you think that the classical music that was playing on the radio when they were outside in the rain is the sonata that is K6205? That was the one that Kaguri was codenamed after?
Potentially. I think that's a good guess. I mean,
why would it resonate so much with her that she would then run into the street and have memories?
I don't think that it would be, if I had to say anything, because, like, what would be the jump of how much work that you are contributing if you are Mozart? If you manage, if you have something that's identified in episode 10 as K331, and then you have something separate that's identified as K6205, that's a lot more works, man. That's like 5,900 more.
I don't know enough about Mozart to know how many.
I would think that
music
I would think that it's just a code, like that's based in the Mozart like realm of
Gotcha.
codes, you
But
know?
then why would that song, that classical music specifically, trigger? Like, we get such a sentimental reasoning for the first musical trigger of memories, of feeling nostalgia, that I feel like that classical music in itself either needs to be iconically, it was playing in whatever hospital or lab setting she was in, or it is what her code name is.
If you're basing your entire code names off of Mozart, I'd imagine you're going to be playing Mozart in that same building.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so like that would be my reasoning for it. I love the Suzuha like rug pull. The I'm going to war. You and I thinking that it was gonna be like spying
We
on.
thought that she was, well, at least I thought she was going to be like not only spying, but like when she said I'm going to battle, I was like, she's gonna be trying her darndest to make sure Daru doesn't mess this up.
Yeah.
But then we find out that it was the eating contest, but then we still get a date.
Yep.
We still get them on a date. Like, how did that even happen? I am kind of bummed that I didn't get to see whatever text message exchange happened there, where, like, did she make the first move and be like, Daru, take me to get food? You know? I feel like she had to.
I'm obsessed with how it actually played out, though. I love how I was nervous how Daru would respond, because, like, especially recently, we've gotten, like, a lot of perviness from him. But I loved his self-deprecating nature because it like shows how much of a pedestal he puts Yuki on.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you don't want to touch my disgusting face. Get that away from me.
Handkerchief.
When in typical conversation, Daru would like
He'd
wedge
be like,
himself
give me
in
your
there and be like,
handkerchief,
oh,
I'm gonna
I have
sniff
food
it.
on my face too, you know. But
Yeah.
I loved how it played out. Suzuha only can talk if she's on the roof. That's her character. She can only have one-on-one interactions if it takes place on the roof.
Yeah,
that's
the
her
roof.
domain. Jim. Love it.
Okay, well,
I'm nervous.
this was not necessarily what... Well, it was a bit of what we were expecting. We were expecting to get back into Kaguri being maybe a focus once Maho and the idea of Amadeus left. We did think that Kaguri would become the focus. It's still unknown to me whether we're gonna see things play out, but I feel like you can't necessarily have things play out the way that they did for the future that Suzuha and Kaguri fled to, with the fact that Suzuha and Kaguri are here. And I think this idea of Kaguri regaining her memories now, we have to bring up the fact of the gun and the fact that Kaguri does not want to be switching world lines. So having someone in such a disagreement about doing anything, what could happen there with that character? Right. Could something happen to Kaguri? Could something happen to Mayuri again that Kaguri would agree to do something about?
I don't know. The only thing I care about is meeting Akemi. I cannot believe they teased me with Okarine's mom and didn't show me it.
Stop.
I'm
The
so
fact
upset
that he
about it. I need it. I need
recognize
it.
his mom's voice at first. That's so funny.
I
He does
I
not
need to
go
see
home
them.
enough.
I need to see his parents. I'm so upset about it.
That was...
They can't tease me like that.
That was too good. That was just too funny, out of pocket. Could not have even guessed it. I was in my head trying to think of like a bunch of other characters that are like 20-something years older. And I was like, is it a professor from the school? You went Mr. Braun. Like, we were like trying to think of older characters in the show. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure Moeka is not that old. And
I need a third or a second, I guess, spin-off of Steins Gate. It's like Steins Gate Bake Off, and it's like all.
It could have been Ferris's butler.
It could have been Ferris's butler, but
That's who
I
it
just
is.
need all of these people in a tent, like doubled up in duos or singles, like baking their own contraptions.
I would want it to be like the Great British Baking Show.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like
exactly.
that show.
Paul Hollywood judging.
Yeah. Mary Berry.
Yeah. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
You good?
Am I good? Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.